Today, I want to invite Alex Wendell up. Alex is the Director of Clinical Training at New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary, and he's going to be talking to us about something that I'm excited to hear about. So can we welcome Alex?
All right, is this on? It is. So, hi, I'm Alex. I'm usually locked behind the drum set, but they have busted me out today. We'll see if it ever happens again after this. Dustin is assured that I have a filter, and I do have one. It's just a matter of how long it can last. So, without further ado, I really appreciated the prayer that we've been doing at the beginning of this series. I like corporate prayer type stuff where we're all kind of engaged in the same moment, the same thought. But there's a one line in there where it says, the wisdom to look for joy in the right places. So there's a lot going on there. Just what is wisdom? Looking for joy and also the right places. And so I want to speak a little bit about what it looks like to find joy even in small things. I think that's part of wisdom, to embrace really every part of our reality, even the tiny little things. And that's, I think, even something scriptural. So Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount tells us to consider the wildflowers, to consider the lilies, to consider birds. Why? When he's trying to make a point about how the Lord provides for us. He could have said, look at the universe and how perfect everything is spaced apart from the sun so we don't die in a nuclear winter or, get melted by the sun. He could have done that, probably. But instead, he encouraged us to look small, look at the little things, and find joy in them. So looking at small things in a very big way. I do a fair share of my clinical work with adolescents. I like to joke that it's because I used to be one. When I first started counseling, it was closer to when I was an adolescent, but now we are 30 and don't look cool to adolescents anymore. But we can still work with it. It's fine. One of the models or approaches I like to use with adolescents, I actually use with adults anyway, because we're probably all in prolonged adolescence. But there's this approach called the DNAV model of counseling, which grows on some other stuff that y'all don't need to care about, so I won't unpack it that much. But what the DNAV stands for is discoverer, noticer, advisor, and values. I mainly want to talk about those first three things because if I talked about values, I would want to talk about virtues, and they would never get me off the stage. So what is a discoverer, a noticer, advisor? So our discoverer, that sort of aspect of our personality or psychology, is what encourages us to seek out new experiences. A noticer is what kind of keys us into the physical sensations about our reality. I think as adults, we get pretty locked up in our heads, in the world of our thoughts and cognitions, and we can sort of lose touch with this discoverer or noticer aspect. What's interesting, though, is we kind of begin our lives as just pure discoverers and noticers. And so just before service this morning, my son was throwing some kind of fit about something. I don't know what, because his advisor can't articulate language to tell me why he's upset. But what was very interesting is I was holding him right up here, and all of a sudden the lights changed into actually that yellow color, and he was just locked in on it. He was just discovering it and was like, whoa, that's amazing. Is it? It is. It's amazing that those things are making light and changing colors and doing all of these things, but we lose track of our ability to engage in those small things of beauty. My other kid is really good at noticing when she has a tummy ache And it's usually because she's experiencing anxiety about something. She's nervous about going to do something, but she doesn't have that sort of advisor to key her into the world of language to say, hey, you're feeling anxious about this. But she's very, very aware of what that physical sensation means for her. Meanwhile, while my kids are discovering the whole new world, my advisor is keeping me stuck thinking about taxes and homework and what we're having for lunch and how we need to go to the grocery store the week of Thanksgiving and how that's not going to be very fun. But that's what's in my head the whole time. That's sort of not letting me engage in these areas. And so just like Pastor Dustin was saying, we need to look to an example. And I think we can look at an example of our kids to discover beauty and notice joy. So this is flying by way quicker than I thought. Nick, if you could pull up the wonderful picture. Yes. So if you're not familiar, this is characters from the hit TV show Bluey. And it's just a really powerful reminder. I use this example in counseling and in presentations about this, that in the top one, we see a 4-year-old dog looking at a walking leaf and wondering, why are you a walking leaf? Why would a leaf want to walk? And in that episode, she tries to get her dad to come notice the walking leaf, but he's too busy doing something else and doesn't go and engage in that moment with his doggy daughter. What's interesting, though, is a handful of episodes later, the kids decide to play a game called Born Yesterday. And in Born Yesterday, Bandit, the dad, is pretending to be born yesterday. And he's introducing himself to stools. He's telling people to not worry about the fiery ball in the sky, the sun, and is just doing all of these silly things. But at the end of the episode, the kids are done playing Born Yesterday. The mom comes home and can't find dad and sees him finally in the backyard just staring at this leaf and asks them, are y'all still playing Born Yesterday? And they're like, no, we finished that hours ago. And so, again, me just being the counselor person wanting to overthink all of these minute emotional experiences, I feel like Bandit's re-engaging in his discoverer and his noticer. And to very swiftly wrap us up so I can get out of here, I think in this sense, bingo, the top picture, was saying, come discover with me. Come look at this small thing and how just magical it is. And I think God can kind of beckon us to do the same thing, but we miss it. We need to consider the lilies. We need to be intentional about our day-to-day experiences. There's this wonderful little book called The Liturgy of the Ordinary. It has a peanut butter and jelly on the cover, which is amazing, I think. But in it, the author makes this point about, like, what can we learn while we're stuck in traffic? Patience, probably. What can Paul learn while he's trapped in prison? Interestingly, he learns faith, hope, and love. And so we need to look at these big, big examples, but we also need to look at these tiny examples in life when we're feeling stuck in our heads about taxes and Thanksgiving cobblers we need to make room for these small experiences in our life.